child molesters, alcoholics, and telescopic seat post specialists are just some of the most recent winners of the Classicissima Milan Sanremo, but none of them had as big a medical advantage as the legendary Francesco Moser in the 1984 edition. At the tender age of 33, the ice cream company-sponsored rider rode one of the best descents of the Poggio of all time to raise his arms on the Via Roma and sing the famous Ricchi Poveri song, Che confusione, forse sono dopato. And he collected the winner's trophy for the first and last time in his career, fulfilling his childhood dream 9 years after the amphetamine-doped Eddy Merckx had beaten him comfortably in the 1975 edition. After several successful years of World Championship, 2 Tour de Lombardia and 3 Paris-Roubaix, Moser had been severely criticised by the press during the 1983 campaign, where he could only achieve important victories in Milano-Torino and his home race, the Giro del Trentino. It seemed that his best years were over, and that the already consecrated star Giuseppe Saronni, 6 years younger and recent winner of Milano Sanremo and the Giro d'Italia, would be the one to push Moser away from the number one in the ranking of the most loved cyclists in the Transalpine country. But Francesco pulled strings among his financial contacts and decided to bet on pharmacological innovation, going all in to become the best once more. In January 1984, Francesco Moser instantly became the Plato of doping in cycling. Until then, the pre-Socratic cyclists who used amphetamines and Peau Belge had dominated. But the Italian wine lover managed, thanks to the creator of Enervit energy bars, Dr. Sorbini, to hire the exclusive dream team of medical doping, the entire clan of the University of Ferrara, led by Francesco Conconi, and with several disciples such as Aldo Sassi and especially Michele Ferrari. This legendary team of doping doctors would recommend that Moser totally drop the amphetamines, give them a complete pass, and instead they were going to use a method that soccer players like Franz Beckenbauer had made fashionable in the 70s, but apply it to endurance sports thanks to the money Conconi received from the Italian Olympic Committee to prepare Olympic champions like the athlete Alberto Cova. We're obviously talking about blood transfusions in the form of blood bags, a much more expensive doping than the classic doping methods of cycling, because of the necessary infrastructures and the medical control that the athletes had to undergo. The best of all is that officially, Moser was not doping. Although today we know that he was, since blood transfusions were not actually banned until 1986. So, doped to the gills, legally, the cyclist with the best medical preparation of all time could achieve his successes in 1984. The funniest thing is that it all really started because of a show that had more economic pull than a purely sporting one. We're talking, of course, about the very popular hour record in Mexico. Francesco Moser was obsessed with beating the legendary record of doped-up Eddy Merckx in 1972, when the guy who introduced Michele Ferrari to Lance Armstrong topped 49.431 kilometers per hour in Mexico's Olympic Velodrome. Since August 1983, Moser had been preparing in the Aztec country with specific training directed by Conconi and Ferrari, using one of the very first heart rate monitors attached to his chest. There were short and explosive sessions in the velodrome, combined with road training based on climbing steep slopes without getting out of the saddle, grinding big gears, completely glued to the saddle. But he also had the first bicycle in history with lenticular wheels, which he had obtained thanks to his economic contacts, and which clearly improved aerodynamics. You can see the rear wheel was significantly larger than the front one. And as if that weren't enough, the Mexico City Velodrome was not only the right one in terms of height and altitude, but it was also run by an Italian, the former cyclist Luigi Cassola, a peculiar guy who treated the track with a special synthetic resin to further reduce the rolling resistance on the wheels and tires. And of course, the transfusions that Conconi and Sassi and Ferrari injected into his vein to be able to fly, and all the $2 million from 1984 that Mr. Paolo Sorbini used to sponsor Enervit, Well, it all brought a huge sporting repercussion inside and outside Italy. The preparation was so good, the performance improvements from the transfusions were so evident, that at the first contact on the velodrome 4 days before D-Day, Moser had already beaten Merckx's record comfortably, with an incredible 50.808 kilometers per hour. That only gave him more publicity, so that on January the 23rd, 1984, with the entire velodrome packed and dozens of television cameras pointing on, between 11 and 12 o'clock in the morning, he managed to beat his record with an incredible 51 kilometers or 151 meters. He had done it. Moser was once again the number one in cycling. Tirani's favourite, the Tifosi's favourite, the one loved by the brands, and in short, the one who earned the most money. And so he decided that not only Conconi, but that charming young man with glasses, who until now had trained only with skiers, would join him during his road goals for the season. And the first one was Milan Sanremo. The doping Plato, together with his academy of dedicated doctors, had made a specific plan for the return to competition. Moser would forget about small-town races and focus solely and exclusively on the big objectives of the season, Milano Sanremo and the Giro d'Italia, the two big competitions in his country that he had not yet won, and that also meant less financial outlay and investment than going to a Tour de France full of high mountains where, despite the magical transfusions, they couldn't turn an excellent rouleur like Moser into a super climber. The academy had not yet reached that level of perfection. Not until Aristotle Indurain arrived. And Moser came like a bullet to Sanremo. It was only his second race of the year, but his form after coming down from the altitude of Mexico was absolutely stunning. With a little bag injected at the right time, the Gis Gelati rider waited calmly for men like Marc Madiot of the dangerous Renault of Guimard, or Stephen Roche, the already established rider of La Redoute, who had just finished second in Paris-Nice, to attack on the Poggio just then at the start of the descent, taking a few meters of advantage and taking advantage of their incredible improved power to start taking meters and meters from the immediate pursuers, in a very similar way to the grandson and son of dopers in the year 2023. On the flats towards Via Roma, Checo began to pull out more and more of a lead, and all the while Conconi and Ferrari smiled from a dingy hotel room. Their plan had worked, and the old machinery had been resurrected, stronger than ever. Moser had plenty of time to celebrate victory, despite the work of Eric van der Aarden's Panasonic Raleigh trying to reduce his lead, and he managed to claim his coveted monument with a lead of more than 22 seconds over the lot. 2 months later, he would achieve, in a totally mafioso way, his first and only Giro d'Italia, as you can see in a video on this humble channel. So don't forget to stop by and leave a nice like on this video if you want me to tell you about another doping show in Sanremo in 1991.